What's up, everybody? How you doing? A new face back on the podcast, joining you today here, Saturday, episode 300. No, that's a lie. 236, sponsored by good friends at Maritime Madness. Check them out online, maritimemadness.com. Use the code FIGHT10. You'll save 10% and get free shipping anywhere in North America. Looking forward to working with them a little bit more as well, moving into 2025. They're going to be involved with if you're purchasing a table, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But as we get involved in the sponsorship in 2025, scheduled in the next couple of podcasts. But super excited to have them back on board and kind of make the table experience a little bit better for our fans. So anyway, let's get into this podcast. Very excited to be joined by this young man, a young St. John athlete out of New Brunswick, a guy who's been around forever on the wrestling scene, now making his way over to MMA. The last couple of years, training very hard with the team, the new team, I guess we'll call it, at the Tigers Den in St. John under Christian Savoy and Chris O'Toole, both of these guys. So welcome, Chris. Welcome to the podcast. How you been, buddy?
Good, man. Yourself?
Awesome. Thanks again for taking the time to jump in here and chat with me on a Saturday afternoon. So let's talk a little bit about the Tigers Den right quick off the top. Obviously, it's a new gym. Where'd this kind of idea come from?
Well, we were bouncing around at a couple of local gyms there that housed us, but we didn't really have our own home yet, right? So we didn't have like specific mat time for ourselves or anything like that. So we were always fitting in other people's schedule. So Christian had the idea, like, we got to get our own place, right? Like, it was inevitable that we had to find our own house eventually to train in. So we started poking around at the idea with a couple other gyms and stuff, and didn't seem to know what to do quite with other gyms because there was not really enough space for a cage and the mats and everything like that. So then luckily we found our nice little home, and one of our local guys in St. John gave it to us, like Christian's friend there, Justin Allen. He helped us out and he gave us the spot to train in. So Christian kind of pulled it all together and brought everything in, right? Like, all the material and the cage and everything is Christian. So I'm basically just there passing on my knowledge to whoever comes into the room and trains with us, and so is Christian, right? But right now it's still like that private kind of training room for like the high level athletes right now.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, it's a slow build in progress, and it's nice to have that because it's, Christian, his whole career, and much like yourself, it's not anything has really kind of been built towards MMA directly, right? So
yeah,
have that nice little spot that you guys can focus on yourself and have no outside distractions. It's important, man.
Oh yeah. Like, there is other places to train. Like, we have lots of like focused disciplines in our area, and there is other MMA gyms like popping up here and there now too, right? So we are starting to develop in the St. John area, but we still are kind of like a little bit underdeveloped in like the whole MMA scene itself.
Yeah. Are you guys in Quispam or are you in St. John?
We're in the heart of St. John right now. Yeah.
St. John's such an interesting place to me.
Oh yeah.
Downtown, the whole. It's a really interesting. I have a buddy who lives out in Quispam Sis, but he's lived in St. John forever before he went out to Quispam Sis, and I spent quite a few fun nights at O'Leary's back in the day.
It's quite the scenic city, honestly. Like, it has its ups and downs. Like, everybody always has like the negatives to say, but it is a beautiful city, right? Like, and it has lots to offer. Like, we have some of the greatest dining, greatest parks and stuff. Like, it's kind of like a little hidden gem to the true St. John people that know.
It really is. Like, that Rockwood Park is a beautiful spot, and like you say, the dining. There's some really good food in that city, and I'm always impressed with like Area 506. That's a really cool festival, and then that other one where it has the big sun or the moon or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty neat. Whatever that is. But
yeah, there's great events in St. John. Honestly, like they put on some great venues and in the Container Village and the Moon event too. Like, it's a sight to see.
Well, we might as well talk about, since we're talking about St. John, because people ask us like, why we never get to St. John, and I'll be honest, like, St. John is notoriously a really shitty city to sell MMA events in. And it's never really went kind of according to plan, but like we're kind of big believers on, like, if we can do an event in Pictou and have what we do in Little Pictou, then you can certainly do an event in St. John. But it's the venue that becomes the issues in a lot of these places, because again, everything's built for hockey or something else. It's not built for MMA. So Lord Beaverbrook would be a place that maybe in the future, I think, is because the one in Quispamsis isn't possible. They won't, like, the rafters.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It may be still possible out there to work something around, but I think I would love to get down there, man. And with all you guys building, with all these gyms popping up down there, it's kind of a no-brainer at some point.
Oh yeah, it'd be great to see the MMA come back to St. John, right? Especially, like I said, as it's starting to develop again, and we're seeing more MMA guys come up and more MMA gyms start to develop too, right? Like, it would be great to see an actual promotion come back and start housing here too.
Well, in the summertime, you don't need a venue. So whoever's running that Area 506 or Port City, reach out to us. Maybe we can bang out an event together or something like that, because outside would be pretty cool. But
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Anyway, Chris, the whole podcast, FLA Exposure, talking about the why, the who, the when, the where in martial arts, how you got involved and who kind of got you involved and why. I know obviously your wrestling background, but let us know.
Yeah, well, I started wrestling back in grade 6, basically, like 11, 12 years old, and I followed that sport through. Like, I seen as much as I could through it, and I went to the nationals, the Atlantics, I went to international twice. I went to Pan American Games twice, 2015 and 2016, both obtaining a bronze medal at both of them. That's so awesome. I had quite the exposure in wrestling. I trained with some of the greatest that have been around. Like, I've been at the Olympic Training Center in Michigan at the Dome. I trained there for 2 weeks straight underneath coaches from America, the States, Russia. Like, it was a great facility there that time too. And that was kind of like my wrestling career kind of ended with Canada Games. I kind of continued on a little bit, but I kind of focused on my studies. I was a business student at UNB Fredericton there. So I was kind of more focusing on my studies, trying to kind of be a student more than an athlete. But I was still training. I just wasn't as active as I could have been.
Yeah.
And then once it came time, I left university. I started working in the elevator trade and whatnot. And I kind of had a little more free time on my hands again. So I started playing around with jiu-jitsu with a couple of guys, and Christian kind of texted me, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm looking for training partners again." And me and him had trained previous in the past when I was like 16, 17, okay. Right? So he's like, "I could use you again. Like, it'd be awesome if you could come in." So he kind of like roped me back into the jiu-jitsu, grappling, MMA scene of it. And I kind of followed him a little bit with his camps and stuff and was starting to like it. And then my cousin Shane Tremblay, he's a really good boxer. He's also a coach as well. So he kind of like helped me with my boxing. Like, I started dabbling with it a little bit because I like a challenge, right? Like, I like learning new things and having a difficulty, right? And working through that difficulty. So me and him started playing with boxing, and now I've been boxing for 2 years straight now. And he kind of got me into it. I've taken boxing fights. I took one, and then after that, it seemed like nobody really wanted to box me anymore. And then I took the MMA fight with you guys at FLA 13, and then had great success there. And then had difficulty finding a boxing match again after that outcome too, right? So then after those camps and those events, I returned back to grappling. We've been focusing on grappling heavy, mostly like helping Christian with his camps, but also staying fresh myself, right? Like, staying active, staying ready, like waiting for that contract, waiting for that call. And finally it came on. So I'm pretty excited now, but it's kind of just been like a domino effect from the start. Like I've always kind of been ambitious towards combat sport. My mom's a nurse, so she was always hesitant to let me like box and whatnot. She was an ICU, so she always, the C word, concussion, she's always and whatnot. So she always had like that fear in the combat sport. So wrestling was kind of like the happy medium, and that's why I kind of developed in that the most. I wrestled for I still call myself a wrestler and actively wrestle. So this would be my 16th year practicing wrestling, right? So it's quite some long time of wrestling, and
for sure, you'll do it forever.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like once my athlete career is over, like, I'd like to just return to the sport and coach in either MMA or wrestling, right? Like whatever follows in. And that's kind of been my MMA exposure, my martial arts career right now. It's just, like I said, like a domino effect. It kind of just happened by me just like following my ambitions and kind of learning new things, and then just kind of becoming good at them, and then taking the final test and taking those fights and seeing what happens, right? Finding those out.
Yeah, for sure. And like, you talk about your last fight, Chris, like, taking those tests, like things like that, like not many people were lining up to fight Ben.
No, exactly. Right. And
and you were like, let's go. I want to test myself. Like, at the end of the day, you're confident in what you could do, and you're like, let's go.
Yeah, right. Like at the end of the day, I'm a wrestler, right? Somebody beats me up, like I'm gonna return to wrestling, and inevitably, I don't think there's many people that are gonna stop the takedowns, right? Like once I want to take a takedown, like it's there, right?
Yeah.
So yes, he was like Ben was a great challenger, right? And I had my nervous training days going against that challenge, right? Like I knew he was a great striker, and he is a great striker, right? So we really focused on my striking and my kicking and my punching, right? And it showed, right? We found his timing and we picked him, right? But it was quite the difficulty training for that, right? And it was a challenge mentally too, right? Like coming in, I was just the wrestler, right? Nobody really knew anything about me, and I didn't really have I had my support from my family and stuff, but the fans were quite biased towards Ben's, right? And the comments showed and whatnot. So it was daunting, but I never lost my mental fortitude, right? Like I just wanted to come in strong and show what I was capable of doing, and I knew it was going to be tough, but it was a matter of getting it done, right? Like who was going to be tougher at the end of that night.
Yeah, well, you certainly like, man, you put everybody on notice that night. That was a hell of a finish, and but I really, I'm a big fan of Ben, and I'm a big fan of you too, man. I'm a big fan of how that fight happened and how you guys both came out of that fight. Ben's learned from that fight. You've learned from that fight, and you both trained together after the fight. You'll probably train together again. Who knows? You might fight again in the future. Who really knows what'll happen? But at the end of the day, it was a really great fight for the local community and both of you guys, I thought.
Oh yeah. Like we were quite the build up and whatnot. Like we kind of had our fans build up the story and everything. But at the end, like once we were done doing our dance, me and him out back, we were talking. We were coming to an amends with it. And now me and him, we talk regularly. Like he's coming out Sunday to train with me now, right?
Yeah.
So
He's a great kid. He really
Oh,
is. I think he's like 21.
yeah, he's young, right? So people kind of forget that. Like he has a long time in this sport, right? He's just starting out, right? So
He's so mature, and because like I'll talk to him. He's like, I'm in the middle of studying for my schoolwork or whatever. Like he's like, I'm really proud of him how he's handled himself. Like that's what I like. I love seeing all of you young men and women just kind of like take pride in representing yourself in there and just kind of going with it. It's pretty cool to see, man. Really. Speaking of that, outside the sport, is there any goals? Like obviously you talked a little bit of, like about other things you do, but I see you're on the motorcycle a lot.
yeah.
What other kind of things what keeps you busy? Like keeps your mind kind of focused on the task at hand without going too crazy?
Honestly, like my whole life, I've always kind of been like one of those gym guys. Like if it wasn't wrestling, I was always going to the gym or I was going for a run and stuff and whatnot. But yeah, return back to the motorcycle and stuff. I am a bit of an enthusiast for motorcycles and cars and stuff. I got a little bit of a collection in my driveway now.
Oh,
I'm a mechanic by trade. I'm an elevator mechanic. I'm an apprentice right now. I'm still in the apprentice program, but I'm learning my ways and whatnot. So I am a mechanic by trade. So that's kind of like my interest outside of fighting is mechanics and whatnot. So yeah, but really, like I said, I've always kind of just always been an athlete at heart. Like I like challenging myself. Like the only person that I'm against is the guy in the mirror, right? It's the way I've always been, right?
yeah, it's the toughest challenge for sure. Elevator trade, like
Yeah.
like obviously, what got you into that? Like in what? It's something that I think about every time I'm on a goddamn elevator. I'm like, please don't.
Yeah, people kind of don't realize it, right? Like it is quite the complex piece of machinery that they hop in, and it's kind of just absent mind. They're just going up and down. It's just a box that moves to everybody else, right? But it's quite the complex rigging, right? Like it's both mechanical, electrical, and like rail systems. That's how it mostly moves, right? So it's a hoisting system and whatnot. But it's how I got into it. I always dabbled with mechanics. Like since I was old enough to hold a wrench, I was helping my brother work on stuff. And then once I came to age to own my own things, like I had a street bike when I was 16 and stuff, started working on that, like fixed that up, built it, and then got into cars, started buying cars and fixing them up and flipping them and stuff. Like I just had the interest of like the complex puzzles of mechanics, right? So, and then I went to university and took business, so that was kind of my secondary. And then I started kind of connecting with some guys that were already in the trade, and they kind of started explaining the benefits and the job at whole, like what it provides, right? Like and the like what day to day kind of follows, right? So it was kind of cool to hear that. And then I kind of just pushed my resume in and just seeing if I could get a call back. And I got the call back, and I started the apprenticeship program. And to start, you're a year on probation, so it's kind of like you could go at any moment. So it's pretty hard to prove yourself at one point, right? You're kind of holding all tools and carrying everything up the stairs for everyone, right? So kind of earn your way. But it was cool to learn elevators at whole, because I only understood kind of like car mechanics and motor mechanics, right? Like most people kind of understand. But then when I got into that, it was kind of like a whole new world, kind of under like learning that stuff. So it was kind of cool, and it was a new challenge, right? And I'm still learning, right? I'm not a mechanic yet, but I'm apprentice and pro in training, right? So it's fun to learn it, and it's quite the, like I said, most people don't realize it's more than just a box that goes up and down. It's quite the complex rigging, but it's nothing like the movies. Like I tell everybody, you're more than
It's good for the mind though, like that complex stuff, like that puzzle solving, like that's the kind of stuff that obviously it's going to make your day go by a lot quicker. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
There's
days that fly by, man, and it's not light work too, right? Like some people think like it's like electrical, like electrician work or whatnot. Not saying that electrician work's light duty or anything like that, but it's not light duty. Like there's some strenuous days. Like we just got done a rope job, and it was 230 feet of 5/8 cat cable, right? So that's some weight, and I was the guy lugging everything around and moving everything, right? So I kind of like, I work every day, 10 hours a day is what it kind of works out to be. It's supposed to be less, but we kind of work out 10 most days. So it's long days. And then I'm working out in the morning, going to work, working all day. And then I'm coming home and I'm doing my sessions with the guys, or I'm going and doing my more running and more weights and stuff. So my days fly by right now, man. Like this camp flew by.
How old are you, Chris?
I'm only 25 going on 26 now. So
man, love it. Got the world by the balls, buddy. Good for you.
Yeah.
Killing it. Good on you. Proud of you. Good job. Coming up, let's talk a little bit about your fight. Liam Campbell, a guy who's been around the block, who's been around here for a long time.
Yeah.
Competed a lot, a couple MMA fights. What's your expectations of the fight, your opponent, and all in between?
I expect him to be a tough opponent, right? Like he's not like, I sat waiting for 10 months for somebody to take this fight, right? So he knew what he was challenged and whatnot. Like I expect him to be just as equal of a challenger, right? Like I don't suspect anybody to be less of what I am, right? I want to have a good fight, so yeah. I don't train lightly. Like I train for the hardest fight of my life every time it's a camp, right? So I expect him to be a good brawler, man, and he's also a jiu-jitsu guy, right? Like I've done my research, right? So I know he's well known in the jiu-jitsu world, and he's got his ranks and whatnot. So we're going to be cautious of those submissions and whatnot, but my wrestling will keep me safe, right? We've been working on grappling quite heavy, right? So, and I'm a no belt is what I always say, but I hang with some of the jiu-jitsu guys, right? Like I'm rolling with black belts and stuff, right? Like, so it's not that I'm unaware of what's going on. It's just that I'm unranked, right?
Man, I'm a black belt, dude. Belts mean nothing, yeah. Like they really they do, but athletics can really carry you a long, long way.
Yeah. And it's like the saying, every punch in the face takes away a belt.
100%, man. 100%. You're right.
Yeah. So like, I expect this fight, like, it'd be nice if it went the way my first fight went, right? Quick or whatnot, like, however, but at the end of the day, I expect a long, hard fight, and that's what I'm training for, right? Like we got to do those 3 rounds, and we got to find out, and that's what I'm ready for, right? I'm ready to spit teeth and fight hard, right? So if that's what he's bringing, then that's what I'm ready for, right? It's just a matter of how to get the job done, right?
Love it. Yeah, it's going to be a barn burner. Liam for sure is going to bring it. He's a Cape Breton boy who's been, he's been around. He's training with that team at Sprawler Brawl, and I'm excited for this fight for both of you guys. It's 2 guys who are just ready to kind of go in there and test themselves and kind of put it on for the fans. So a 25-year-old, I don't know how old Liam is, but he's a little bit older than that. But he's in shape and he's ready to go, and I'm pumped for it, man.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
Any actually, before we move on, Christian, did he grapple against Christian before? I think he did a couple times. Maybe
I don't know if Christian's mentioned that to myself yet or whatnot. But it's possible. Like Christian's been around in the grappling game and jiu-jitsu too, right? So I know Christian had mentioned that Liam had fought on a card previously with Christian back in the elite days in St. John.
yeah, he's man, he's just been a guy that's been, I've known Liam for a long time. He's competed a lot of tournaments and just a good dude, put a lot of time into the community and the scene and represents that team well. So it's going to be a great fight between two good guys, man. You know, two great athletes, and that's what it's about, man. It's about testing yourself and may the best man win. So speaking of Christian, what'd you think of your experience going down there? You're obviously came out of on the losing end of the fight, but represented himself really well. I thought other than no one talked about it, and I don't really want to make any excuse or whatever, but that was crazy intentional and that was crazy.
Oh yeah, that takedown was pretty malvicious, man.
That's game. It is what it is, but
right. It was within the rules, but it was violent, right? It was violent. So, yeah. But we didn't as coaches, me and the other corner man, when we were in the corner, we couldn't really see the angle that was where the takedown happened. So I heard the noise, but I hadn't really clued in or seen what had happened, and then in the corner, he had finally got to say his knee, right? So then we realized okay, things changed a little bit in the game, but he came out second round swinging, ready to fight, right? He proved he was tough, right?
Very much.
Who knows if that knee hadn't have gone, what would have happened, right? And that's what we kept saying. So
yeah, he represents himself really well, though, man. So super classy, no excuses, no Christian's a badass dude, and I got a lot of love for Christian, man. We got a lot of love for him here at FLA. He's represented our brand really well and represents himself really well. He holds one thing about Christian is there's no bullshit, man. It's take it or leave it. This is the way it is, and if you don't like it, whatever. And that's the way kind of I am, and I really like that about him. He's been a pleasure to work with, and so hopefully he heals up and we see him again in the near future. So anyway, go back to your experience. What did you think of the Apex and?
Oh, it was pretty cool. I'd never been to Las Vegas myself yet, so just even seeing that city itself was quite the odd moment. So, but then getting into the UFC Apex and the whole experience of the Contender Series was quite surreal, man. It just kind of it was really professional, right? We had everything we needed, and Christian felt more than comfortable, and we were ready for it, and it was quite the production too, right? It was really well done. It was quite the facility itself.
Yeah.
And, it was pretty cool being in the same room as some of the big guys, right, and talking to some of the officials and the hand wrap guy and stuff, and getting some inside stories and stuff. So it was quite the experience, honestly, right?
That's what it's about too, man. A lot of those memories they will last you forever. So, and it's it's stuff that you can take away from that. You're like you say, I'm sure it's not going to be the last time you'll be in that room.
No.
So it's a good first experience. So. Anyway, man, I don't want to take up a ton of your time. Obviously, it's Saturday here. The fights are on very soon. But a couple of questions before we go. You've been a guy, again, around for a long, long time in the sport. For kids coming up, whether it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever kind of sport it is, how do they deal with a tough loss?
See, that's where I have a different ideology than most people, right? I don't call them losses, I call them lessons, right? And the losers take them as losses, right? A winner takes it as a lesson. So if you go home and I lost, it's all negative, right? You have to look at the positive of it. What can I work from? I still have work to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where wrestling kind of differentiates from MMA, where everybody wants a perfect record, right? And in wrestling, that doesn't happen, right? You're fighting sometimes week to week, right? I had one tournament. It was nationals. I fought in 2 categories the same day. I was fighting on one mat, and then I had 30 seconds to get to the other mat for my next match, right? And it was just a matter of challenge myself, and I wanted those 2 categories, and it would have been awesome to. Yeah. Well, I did win one of them. I didn't win both of them, but like I said, it's different. We learn to lose, but it's not a loss; it's a lesson, right? We have things to work on. There's a reason you didn't win, right? You missed an opportunity. You gave yourself up. You gave up opportunity, right? There's people, like I said, there are people that take the negative only away from it and just go home with a sad upset. Those are the guys that are gonna probably not see the outcomes they want to see again, right? Yeah. But the guys that go home and they do their film study and they watch their own fights again and they see what they did wrong and then they go work on it and they pick themselves apart, right? Then those are the guys that are gonna do better the next time, right? It's never a loss. It's only a lesson, right? And you have to learn to take that on the chin. And that was something that me and Ben were talking about out back, right? Because like he was obviously a little upset. Like it's hard to take a loss, right? Especially your first one in a sport. And I was explaining like it's only the start of it, man, and it's a lesson, right? And you have things, not himself, but I just retell him my way of it is this. There's things to work on, right? You're not perfect yet, and you'll never be perfect. And the people that think they're perfect are the guys that are going to experience those losses, right? Like you always have things to work on, no matter how good you are, right? Like I can't remember how many double legs I've done, and I still do them to warm up every day, right? Like it's just a matter of perfecting it, even if I think it's perfected, right? Don't do it till it's right. Do it till you can't get it wrong.
It's funny, you know, like that's where jujitsu I find is like a lacking a little bit too, but like compared to like wrestling or judo or like jujitsu, you know, obviously it's, you know, the warm ups and this kind of thing. You don't have those like core, like kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but like these like things that are instilled in the kids from a young age. You know what I mean? Like that work ethic, because it will in 10 years because jujitsu is so new here to that, whereas it's like been around at wrestling and judo forever. But I've been impressed. Like you go to judo and wrestling camps and you just look at the kids and how organized it is and how well they behave and how like focused on their goals they are. Like it's just like it's like a different kind of thing almost. Like, and it's funny, like you talk about MMA and that, like everybody's striving for that perfect record, and like, you know, it's extremely difficult to deal with, to be honest, like on our end. And like it's just it's the way the sport's become. And I don't know if it's because the lack of opportunity. I think a lot of it is that, to be honest. Like, you know, like we do 5 cards a year, or other, like in Canada there might be 20 cards for the whole country or whatever it is. Like, and for you to really stand out and get those opportunities, it's like it's not like the Quebec Major Junior League where you got 80 games or whatever, and then you might get scouted and go to the next level, or whatever, like, or get traded and still get an opportunity. Like you could get hurt, and you might, like, there's so many variables in the sport. So I get the pressure, but it's also like it's also ruining the sport a little bit too. So it's
people are tending to cherry pick their fights a little more, right? Like, and people have to get over that fact, right? Like it's still a fight. If you don't feel ready, then yeah, that's one thing, right? And maybe develop more. But those guys that grab the mic and then I'll fight anybody anytime, and then behind the scenes they're getting slip contracts and they're turning their nose up at them, right? Like those are the guys that are kind of ruining the sport. Those paper champions, those guys that want to look perfect and take those chump fights, right? And that's not like me, right? Like I want to be one of those guys that you slip me a contract, if I'm ready for this guy and we're within reason, then let's go, right? And also I have kind of Christian and my coach Shane also, and some other people that I have to kind of talk to, because I'm one of those guys that, like, I'll fight anybody, right? You slip me the paper, like I'll sign it, right? So I have to talk to my team and make sure that I'm making the right choice. Because
for sure, man. Like the thing is, like in this sport, there's been so many like shady things that have happened to people through the years that there's like a lot of just like negative history that in 10, 15 years, hopefully promoters' names change a little bit, especially in Canada, man. There's a lot of us like really trying to do really good things and like just try to treat people and give people the right opportunities, and want the respect in return. And that's, I think, what really needs to happen. I think there needs to be a little bit more of a trust, but there's still there's people out there who are just like, I just want to bang, bro, and you just want to fight, and they're like 0-20 and they'll fight anybody, and people are giving them fights, and it's like, this is not good, like not safe, it's not good for the sport. Like you like, I want as even fights as possible, not obviously, it's just not like, it's not possible. Like the amount of variables, like when it comes to licensing, travel, weight, skill level, coaches letting them fight.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many variables that people are like, oh, okay, like, no, hey, this guy's available. It's like, oh no, he's not, because this reason.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I find in like the amateur game too, right? Like I'm still pretty new and only experienced in Atlantic Canada, but you and me have been talking a little bit, and it was pretty hard for me to get this fight. And the reason being, guys were saying they're not ready and this and that, but like they have to get over it. It's amateur, man. Like we're here to get that exposure, get that experience. We're like, I don't care about my record right now. I need to get that experience. I need to get that work in, and it's not going to be a loss. It's going to be a lesson in amateur, right? And these guys need to get over that. Like, we don't need perfect records in amateur. We need experience. We need to get that work in. We need to get more experience, right? Like, and it's sad because there's guys in amateur that think that they need to protect their record, and no, man, like you need to get those fights, and maybe you're not ready, but maybe you are ready, and you just thought it mentally, right? Like that's another thing, guys got to learn to develop their mental more too, right? Like fighting fighting's more mental than physical, and guys don't realize that.
Man, I like it blows me away. Anytime I see all you guys and girls get in the cage, I'm like, it's amazing. It's amazing to me that all of you get in there and how you perform, and it's just incredible. It's like
Yeah.
really like for anybody, like obviously on the inside of the sport, but like for people who aren't inside the sport to go and watch, like if you didn't know, if you were like a grandmother or something and you came watch this, you would go back to your Monday and you'd be like, I went to the UFC Saturday.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Like,
it's
they not know the difference. You know what I
that's
mean? Like, and it's not, obviously there's a huge difference. I'm not saying there's not, but for like how the amateurs and pros really compete as like only 17 events in here, it's really admirable to how everybody's handling it and kind of holding themselves up and competing at a higher level. But going back to that again, it's true, man. Like the amateurs, like especially the amateur, like I do a lot of the matchmaking myself. Like I'll man, like like I deal with agents and coaches all over the world, and they got amateur fights. They're like okay, they're like 2-0 as a pro, but they got 28 amateur fights, and they're a black belt, and they're like from Kazakhstan,
yeah.
or whatever. Like that, like the level of pro athletes now has just become like so high level. And in Canada, we're really struggling because we're not competing
Yeah.
against each other as much as we should. So we'll see, man. We'll see if that changes. But we got a great scene out here in the East Coast, and we're just getting started, man. We got a ton of phenomenal athletes from every province, man. So it's
Oh yeah.
exciting
No.
up here.
It's growing and it's growing rapidly. Like you see it every show, right? We get more and more fights, and it's great to see you guys having the success that you guys are having. And it's awesome for me to be a part of it in a small way, but
Oh,
contribute in my part, right? Like it's a great opportunity for athletes, and guys should dive in more and take those fights and take the opportunity to get that exposure, right? Like you guys offer a lot with your guys' production.
thank you, man. Yeah, it's you know we it takes two to tango. You know, without the athletes, without everybody involved, it's you know it's we always say that it's like some type of the ability to get an event off the ground to start at 7 o'clock takes a crazy amount of moving parts, and sometimes I got to be an asshole. You know, people I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, you know, it's like, well, man, like you like, do you want to fight at 7 or do you not?
Yeah.
So that's how like someone's got to be the guy. So
No.
you know, anyway, great advice. We kind of segued way the hell off there,
Yeah.
um, but final words, man. Thank yous. You know, we talk a lot about the boys at Tigers Den. You got a great group there, Christian and Liam and Shane and all those. You know, I know I probably just forgot other people, but um, people inside, outside the gym that you know have been important to you throughout your life.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank, like, especially like Christian and Shane. Christian and Shane have been helping me get back into the sport, and have been alongside me, helping me mentally and getting in there physically. They're both like my main sparring partners too, right? So they helped me a lot, and Christian helped me with his facility, and Shane helping me with my boxing skills and everything. And then I want to give a shout out to Victory. They were really helpful at the start. That's where I got a lot of my jiu-jitsu rounds in and a lot of lessons there, right? So they were really helpful, and it's a great facility. Anybody that wants to learn in that area, in KV there, so check them out. And I'd also like to thank KV Boxing. That's where I was starting my boxing. Like they were helping me out a lot, and I got a lot of rounds in there. Tim's a great coach too. And then I was also in the Southside Golden Gloves with Joe. So he was helping me out a lot too. Joe Blanchard, he's a great coach. Anybody that's in St. John wants to learn boxing and get into the sport there too, man, hit him up, get into there, and you'll be in with some of the best guys, right? Like that's a great place to get the rounds in. And honestly, I just want to thank my friends and family for supporting me, and my family's been alongside me. I know it's like it's a little bit scary to watch your sibling or your son or your brother or your cousin, right, get in there and see what happens because it's a fight. So I just like to thanks for the support from my family and my friends and my girlfriend, because I know there's a lot of late nights that I'm gone, I'm training, and she doesn't get to see me much. She puts up with a lot, right? But no, it's all in all, it's great, and I really appreciate the support from the community in whole that I'm in. So thanks, everyone.
Awesome, man. Great words. Great. You know, you got the whole package, man.
Thanks.
Really, you speak very well. You fight well, and representing your area really well, man. So keep it up. And I'm a big fan of you, and I'm a big fan of Liam. And may the best man win.
Yeah,
So,
I'm excited to get in there and get the job done. whatever happens, hopefully we don't have to wait 10 months and somebody else can have the courage to sign the contract after too, right? So
there you go. You hear it, everybody, at 205, right from 185 to 205. We were looking, to be honest.
Yeah, like I'm a wrestler, right? I'm not shy cutting weight, and those guys are more shy of me than I am cutting weight. So after this fight, whatever happens, right? I'm ready, and I've also started thinking about 172, right? So if it's a matter of cutting weight, I'll come down, I'll hang out with them too, right? So these guys got to quit hiding, or I'm gonna start cutting.
What? You heard it here first, folks. Love to hear it. That's good, though, man. You know, a guy who maybe the first ever 3-division fighter in FLA history. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Be cool, right?
Yeah, love it. Okay, man. Any final words?
No, thanks again for the opportunity, and hope to put on a great show for you guys when the time comes, right? So
Awesome. Well, you had a great fan base last time, man. You know, you had a ton of people there supporting you, so I'm sure it'll be the same this time. And I'm excited, man. We'll see you in visit like 14 days.
Something like that, yeah. So buy your tickets, guys. Nobody wants to miss this fight. This card's stacked, right? So not just my fight alone, but this card's a good card to get the money out and get there, right? Watch this event, and you don't want to miss my fight. Me and Liam are gonna get a good show going, right? Let's bang.
It's gonna be a hell of a fucking night. I cannot wait. I don't swear much, but I'm very excited for this card.
Oh yeah.
So all right, man. Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon.
Have a good night.
Okay, thanks.